Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's English. I am so excited today because we are starting to write Taddeo Jones's diary entries. I can't wait to see what you're going to write. So let's have a look at what we're learning today, all about diary entries. In this lesson, we're going to start writing a recount, Taddeo Jones's diary. We're going to start with some spellings. Then we're going to retell the recount using our recount maps. Then we're going to do some shared writing, and you'll then have a chance to do some independent writing as well. You will need a piece of paper or a book, a pen or pencil, and your fantastic brains. If you need to go and collect any of these things, pause the video now and press play when you're ready. In spelling, for this part of our English unit, we're revising lots of words and patterns and tricks that we've been learning in previous lessons. Let's have a look at the words now. I've put some of our words in this special box. I wonder if I pick one out and then we can challenge ourselves to put it into a sentence and explain what the tricky bit is. Okay, so I'm going to choose a word. I'm going to say it in a sentence and I'm going to explain the tricky part. Right, let's see what our first word is going to be. Ooh, see, ooh. When. When. Now, the tricky part is the WH grapheme at the start. When will we all return to school? It's a question word, so I've made a question with that word. Can you think of a sentence for the word when? Well done. I'm going to go back to my box. Let's see what word is next. So many in there. Ooh. I've got the word mummy. What's the tricky bit? Remembering the E sound, mummy, is made using a Y. The mummy stomped down the huge golden corridor. Let's see if I can find another word for you. I'm going back to my box. Oh, it's a bit stuck. Hang on. I think maybe it's got stuck in a corridor. Oh, got it. We've got today. We definitely need to use this word in our diary entries. What's the tricky part? Well done. So today, we can't sound it out. We just have to know it. So we've got today. We need to remember two only has one O. Today, it's a short sound. Today, we are writing our diary entries. Brilliant. Right. Why don't you have a try now with the rest of our words? Choose a word, looking for that tricky part, and saying the word in a sentence. Pause the video now and give that a go. Press play when you are ready for the next part of our lesson. Welcome back. How did you get on? So we are now ready to start writing the first part of Taddeo Jones's diary. Now, in our last lesson, we unpicked the toolkit for writing a brilliant diary entry. Can you remember what was in it? I'm trying to think. I know I drew some things on my toolkit. You're right. We need to use time words so that everything is happening in order. We could use words like first, next, then. Brilliant. What else was there? You're right. Thoughts and feelings. We definitely need to include these so our reader knows how we were feeling throughout our days. Is there anything else we need to include? Yes, we have to write using words like I, me, my, because we're telling it from the character's point of view. So it is first person. We are becoming Taddeo Jones and he will write I, my. It was happening to me. Is there anything else we needed to put? Oh, you're right. We can also put in our senses. So what we could touch and what it felt like, what we could see, hear, what we might have smelt or tasted during our day. There is something else. Is it happening today to us? No, you're right. It's happened in the past. So we will be writing in the past tense. Well remembered, everyone. We are totally ready now. So we're going to play a little bit of a game. Tell me more. I'm going to be in role as Taddeo Jones. So we're writing the first part of Taddeo's day today. I'm going to ask some questions about the first part of that day to get a bit more information. Okay. What happened to you first of all? Well, I walked in through the tomb entrance, excited about what I was going to see inside. Do you like my hat? I certainly do. Tell me more about the entrance of the tomb. Well, it was cold and very dark. Covered in cobwebs too. Can you see them hanging off my hat still? There were some drawings on the wall as well. Tell me more about the drawings that you saw. I couldn't tell what they were. They looked like animals and people, but I didn't know what they meant. Tell me more about the walls and where they were going. More about the walls? Well, they took me further inside the tomb. My torch was the only thing helping me move around safely. There was a gentle breeze, but I didn't know where it was coming from. I was feeling nervous and could feel tingles all over my body. So this way of telling me more is a way to make us start thinking about the detail we might want to include in our diary entries. Why don't you have a go at playing the Tell Me More game at home? Focus on the first part of your diaries. Like me and Taddeo, you might want to choose the very first part of him stepping into the tomb. If there's someone around, perhaps they can ask you, tell me more about. Or you can do both roles yourself. Press pause now and have a go at playing the game. Press play when you're ready to continue. Okay, I think we're ready. We're going to start writing Taddeo Jones's diary entry. Now I've got a few things to help me. I've gone through all of the things in my toolkit and I've got my poster to help me with that. I've also got my recount map with my notes on to help. For each sentence that I write, I need to think it, say it, and punctuate it. Think it, say it, punctuate it. Then, when I'm writing, I'm going to think it again. I'm going to write it, and then I'm going to read it back. Think it, write it, read it back. Out of the way. Can we make it bigger? Da, here. There we go. Okay. Okay. So, what could I write next? I need to tell the reader exactly how I, as Taddeo Jones, was feeling and what I'm going to write about. So, what sort of day was he having? So, I know on my plan, I thought about that he was excited, maybe a little bit nervous about his day. So I'm going to write, I have had the most extraordinary day. So I, capital letter, have had the most extraordinary day. You will not believe what happened to me, because I want the reader to know that I almost can't explain what happened to me on this day. It was amazing, extraordinary, and very hard for someone who wasn't there to believe. So I've got, dear diary, I have had the most extraordinary day. You will not believe what happened to me. Why don't you pause the video now and start your diary entries? You can write, dear diary, and then your first sentence is summing up the day you had. You could put, I have had the most amazing day. I have had the most terrifying day ever. You can choose how you want to start. If you would like to use Google Docs to type up your diary entries, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, a piece of paper or a book is absolutely fine. Pause the video now and write your first sentence. Press play when you're ready to move on. Now, I'm ready to continue with my next part. So I'm writing about the first event. So I'm going to look on my recount map at the first section I've boxed up. This is when he first goes into the tomb and has to choose where he is going to go. Now, this would be a fantastic place to use a time word. Which one should I use? Should I use next? Finally? A few days later? No? Okay. Can you help me? What word should I start with? Brilliant. First. This is the first thing that happens to us as Tadeo Jones on this amazing, extraordinary day. So I'm going to think about what I'm going to write next. So I know Tadeo, or I, was stood outside the tomb door and I was waiting to go in. Okay, so I'm going to now say my sentence. First, I waited excitedly outside the tomb door, just waiting for the door to open. Need to remember a full stop there, so capital letter. First, I waited excitedly outside the tomb door, just waiting for the door to open. Full stop. Now I want to add a little bit of extra detail there. So what could I then say? Oh, I know. So when it did open, how did I feel? Oh, I felt like an explorer. Okay, so I could put, when it did, I felt like a real explorer. Quickly, I walked into the tomb, ready to face whatever came. Full stop. So I've thought about my sentences. Now I'm going to write them down. So I've decided, dear diary, I have had the most extraordinary day. You will not believe what happened to me. First, I waited excitedly outside the tomb door, just waiting for the door to open. When it did, I felt like a real explorer. Quickly, I walked into the tomb, ready to face whatever came. So now I've written my sentences, I'm going to have another look and I'm going to check that they make sense. First, I waited excitedly outside the tomb door, just waiting for the door to open. When it did, I felt like a real explorer. Quickly, I walked into the tomb, ready to face whatever came. I'm going to go back to my story map now, just to check what happened next. So I've done my first drawing where I, as Tadeo Jones, walked into the tomb. So now I'm on to my next part of when he's in the dark and he has to light his lamp. And we're going to think about those extra corridors and him not knowing where he was going to go. So I need to have a bit of a think of what I'm going to write next. I think I've got it. I'm going to write about the door slamming shut, going up those stairs, and finding an extra corridor. So I'm going to have the door slammed shut behind me, but I had a bright lamp to guide me. The door slammed shut behind me, but I had a bright lamp to guide me. I think that's a good start. How did I go up the stairs? Oh, yes, brilliant. Carefully. So carefully, or I could use cautiously. Okay, cautiously, I went up the stairs and searched for the way to the treasure. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were two different paths in front of me, and I didn't know which way I was meant to go. So I've now spoken about the door closing, going up the stairs, and finding different paths that I had to choose from. So now I'm going to write my sentences. The door slammed shut behind me, but I had a bright lamp to guide me. Cautiously, I went up the stairs and searched for the way to the treasure. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were two different paths in front of me, and I didn't know which way I was meant to go. Full stop. I'm going to read back through my writing to check that I am absolutely happy with the sentences I have written. First, I waited excitedly outside the tomb door, just waiting for the door to open. Now I've used a time word. I've used the past tense for wait, waited. And I've said about being excited, so I've used a lot of my toolkit there. When it did, I felt like a real explorer. Quickly, I walked into the tomb, ready to face whatever came. The door slammed shut behind me, but I had my bright lamp to guide me. Cautiously, I went up some stairs and searched for the way to the treasure. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were two different paths in front of me, and I didn't know which way I was meant to go. Well, those make sense to me. I don't think I've missed any words out, which is really good. I've definitely used some emotions in this part. I've used some ED words showing it's happened in the past. So I've slammed, waited, searched. It's in order. And I've remembered my capital letters and I've remembered my full stops. The last thing I'm going to write is when there is a noise and Taddeo Jones darts down one of the corridors. And that's where I'm going to end my writing today. So I know at the moment in my diary, he's having to choose which way he wants to go. Now let me try and remember, what was it that made him choose? Can any of you remember? That's right, there was a noise. So I'm going to put, let me think about it. A loud noise came from behind me and I darted, which means he moved fast, down the nearest or the closest corridor to get away from it. So now I'm going to write, a loud noise came from behind me and I felt a cold breeze across my face. I darted down the closest corridor to get away. Now you might have noticed when I wrote my sentences, I've added in a little bit of extra detail, and that is absolutely fine. We want to be adding that extra detail. So if you say a sentence and then decide you want to add in a little bit more, feel free to do that. It shows that you're really thinking about what is happening. So I'm just going to read my last sentences to check that I'm happy with them. A loud noise came from behind me, and I felt a cold breeze across my face. I darted down the closest corridor to get away. Yes, I really like how I've started this diary entry. I've used my toolkit to help me include the different things that I need to make a fantastic diary entry. I've got some time words. I've used I, me. What other features have I used? Oh, I've used my senses. I've said there was a cold breeze across my face. So I used some senses to help the reader. I've also used emotions and feelings to really explain how I, as Tadio Jones, was feeling. Okay, now it is over to you. You are going to be writing about the first part of your day. Try and start your first sentence using the word first, because it is the first thing that happened to you. You will want to add in some sentences to add extra detail. Remember to look at your toolkit to think about what needs to go in. Don't forget to also look at your recount maps. There are some good words that you've written on there that you might want to include. Think your sentence, say your sentence, and then write your sentence. Reading it back to make sure you are completely happy with what you have written. Like I said earlier, if you would like to type up your diary entries on Google Docs, that is absolutely fine. Your teachers would love to see it as you write. But if you would rather write it out on a piece of paper or in a book, that is also absolutely okay. It is your choice. I would like you to take care with your handwriting. Make sure you're taking your time. A good place to stop today's writing is when Tadio goes into the big room with the empty doorways. So if we look at my story map, today I've only written the things that were in my green box. So Tadio going into the tomb, going up the stairs, looking around, hearing something, and then choosing a direction. Make sure you don't go too far ahead. So pause the video now and start writing the first part of your diary entries. Press play when you're ready. How did you all get on? I hope you're as excited as I am about writing your diary entries. You have all worked incredibly hard today, and I hope you're really proud of the first part that you have written. I would love to see the first part of your diary entries, and I am sure your teachers would as well. If you've written on Google Docs, now might be a good time to share it with your class teacher. You could also send it to me so I can have a look at all of your hard work as well. I would love that. If you've written on a piece of paper or in a book, you could take a photograph and email it over to your class teacher. You could also email it over to me, as I would also love to see yours as well. Great work, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all next time to continue writing our diary entries. Bye, everyone.